All right. So this is All Things Alaska Peer. This is Jim McLaughlin with Department of Behavioral Health, Division of Behavioral Health. And we have you here today to chat up the upcoming peer support conference, Voices Rising. So just go ahead and introduce yourself. What do you do for peer work?
Well, hi, everybody. So I'm Jim McLaughlin, and I do work at the Division of Behavioral Health, and I've been working there for about 12 years now. And before that, I worked, I probably was in the field like 45 years. It's kind of scary, but I'm starting to count them up now. And I worked primarily in community mental health centers with folks with pretty serious mental health issues. And sort of kind of like my development of getting interested in peer support went back to the late 80s. And I had an opportunity to study at Boston University and be associated with a place called the Center for Psychiatric Rehabilitation. And there was a guy there named Bill Anthony who was just inspiring. And he was kind of a prime mover of the recovery concept, particularly in mental health, to get advanced and really be part of the field. And he did a lot of research around it as well. Shortly after that, I moved to California, had a chance to be the director of a supported housing program there, and was able to hire peers. And that was really exciting. Another thing that really happened along the way was I went to a conference. It was the California Association for Social Rehabilitation. And it was a conference, it blew me away. It was like peers were presenting, or consumers, we were sort of referring to them then, and professionals. And it just really sort of changed my mind view about consumers and just really the just the amazing experiences and just what they could bring to the whole field. So kind of fast forward to when I became involved with came into the Division of Behavioral Health. And about 2017, I had I was asked to work on peer certification. And when we started with that, we got folks from an organization called Brass Tacks. It was bringing rehabilitation supports to scale. It's a technical assistance center. So they helped us really look at a plan for how do we promote recovery in the behavioral health system. And so we had a bunch of different folks involved with that, and that was helpful to get us started. We also had a big meeting where we got together both SUD peers and mental health peers and state people, mental health trust, a lot of different people in the same room. And it was really exciting to really see the amount of people that were interested in peer support. So of course, peer support has been going on for a long time. I have really sort of watched the progression of it in Alaska. And so this was an opportunity to particularly work on certification. So that was really the first thing that we worked on. And we had a stakeholder group in 2017 that worked on it for, I think, the better part of 9 months, every couple of weeks for 9 months. And but it was great. It was really productive. We put together a set of recommendations for sort of recovery services in general, but particularly about really the peer certification. Then it took us a few years to get some funding together, and we were able to do a contract with the Alaska Center for Behavioral Health Certification to go forward with actually building this. And as part of this, as part of the contract, we said that we wanted them to have an advisory group, a peer support advisory group, or peer support advisory board, actually, that would advise the commission about the development. And so as part of that, we wanted it to be a majority of peers that were part of that. And so we got the board together, and they have been meeting for, boy, at least 6 months, probably more than that. They, along with the staff from the commission, really worked very, very hard to put together all the details involved with the certification. So we've rolled it out, had a number of webinars. It actually was available starting in January. People have submitted applications. There's been a number of people that have been certified so far. And I know there's a lot of other people that are really working on it at this point. That's kind of a snapshot. It's not everything that we're doing at this point, but it's a lot.
Yeah. And I know that we've got the conference coming up in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really wanted to touch on how that's going to work out. And I know we've got a lot of people already signed up, but I really want to make sure everyone knows about it too. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, so so this is another thing. I'm pretty sure have been conferences in the past, peer conferences. I know that Eliza down in Ionia has had a number of different gatherings, but there, to my knowledge, hasn't been a statewide one for a while. So we, get money from the Mental Health Trust, and we put a committee together of folks, so the conference is going to be May 5th to 7th. It's going to be essentially half days because it's going to be virtual. There will be a face-to-face conference at some point. It's just not now. And hopefully this might be like one of the last virtual conferences we have, but we'll see how the summer works out. So anyway, so we're pretty excited about it. I can kind of rattle through some of the different sessions that we're going to have. We're going to have one on peer crisis support, one on cultural humility, one on youth peers, one on reentry peer support, family peer support, ethics, introduction to RAP and WHAM, traditional cultural peer support, self-care and boundaries, and patient rights and protections, and a few others. It's going to be spiced up. We're going to have some interesting things that make it, I think, maybe a little unique.
Yep.
So looking forward to it. It's really easy to sign up for it. You can just Google Alaska Peer Conference, and a couple of links will pop up to it of ways you can get into to sign up for it. We've got a website built, of course, already, but we're adding to it as we firm up some of the different sessions. But it should be really good. We're looking forward to it.
And for those interested, I will actually be posting that link with the video later, so it'll show up in the same place. So what would you say is probably the most exciting part about the peer movement up here?
Well, I have to say this is just a particularly exciting point in time. There's just really been a convergence of a lot of different people that coming together about, sort of at this same time with, with the intent to really move peer support forward.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, as far as like the traditional behavioral health system, peer support, was an available service, that was a Medicaid reimbursable service through agencies that were community behavioral health agencies. So it's been around for a while, but the new 1115 Medicaid plan is really building some new services that, and I think almost all of them, peers can really be a provider in those services. There are some that are specifically for peers. There's a peer crisis support service. Obviously, it's for peers to do. And there's a slate of crisis services too, that will really expand our ability to really meet people where they're at, not wait for them to show up in emergency rooms, not wait for them to to necessarily come in for an appointment at a behavioral health center, but to be able to have like mobile outreach teams. And there's a lot of interest in having peers as part of that team. And then we're looking at having crisis stabilization facilities so people can have an alternative from going to either the hospital or an emergency room to be, have some of their issues addressed in a setting that's a lot more comfortable. And that's specifically geared towards working with people with behavioral health issues. So peers are also, going to be a big part of that. We've looked at similar programs in the lower 48, and they call peers the special sauce that makes it work, for these crisis stabilization facilities. So there's, these crisis services. There's the development of the peer certification. I think that there's a lot more agencies that are being open to hiring peers than before. There's just really more educational opportunities. Jen and her group are doing a lot of that introductory training. The university is looking into doing training and having curriculum for peer support providers. There's there's a host of different things going on at the same time. So that's, this is a super exciting time right now.
I love that. It really is. I was telling my husband on his break just before we started talking that, I remember when I showed up at your office for the first time, just like, okay, where do I fit into this mix? And, not everyone is as brazen as me that's just going to start calling random numbers and making that happen. So where would you direct somebody that wants to start working in this entity, maybe not necessarily getting their certification, but being part of the process writers and really the change makers?
Yeah. One thing just about certification I want to point out is that you don't have to work in a traditional behavioral health organization to pursue certification. It's also open to other more recovery-oriented organizations. So it's possible to go through certification that way. In terms of really becoming more involved, well, one, listen to programs like this. It's like, I think that finding some way to connect into a network of like-minded people. There are more sort of, groups on Facebook. There are, different things like what Eliza was talking about last week with this, sort of a network of peers. But, in addition to that, if you have an opportunity to volunteer or to work anywhere, in the field, that's going to be a really good start. It's also important to just read, and look at stuff on webinars, on YouTube. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on that involves peers. And it's really, we've got so much at our fingertips that it's really worth trying to educate yourself as much as possible. But I think the biggest thing is to become part of a network of peers.
Yeah, being curious, really kind of exploiting that curiosity is going to be a big thing. I think that's how I found most of the people up here as I started my adventure back in 2018 was, I got this stack of papers that said, well, this is all the peer stuff we have. And, I don't know how many dead ends I hit, but I'm too darn stubborn. So
Right.
it was beneficial.
Well, I think the thing is, kind of like your experience too, is that it really proves that, a person who is really passionate about something, that really wants to get involved, especially in this environment, in Alaska, in the peer community right now, you can really have an amazing impact. And we need as many people to step forward like that. It's really important to have, as many people in leadership positions as possible. And not everybody has to be in a leadership position, but you'd be surprised at the potential impact you can have with this community right now.
Yeah. And I want to kind of piggyback on that, because that's something I'm noticing after we got the certification program running last year in May. We're actually coming up on a year for my first round of trainees. And what I'm noticing is people are really hungry for this.
Mhm.
Like because we've been able to do it online this last year, what I've seen, and like right now, as we're moving into the end of this fiscal year, we have a 20 top at one of the sites out in Soldotna. And I'm just like, how did you get all these people in the same room to do this? Like they are very proud of themselves, and I am too, because they're really focused on internally growing and kind of making it maybe part of their program to have this training part of that recovery piece, because it's just as important to the peer that takes in the information as it is to the people they serve with the information.
Right, right. Yeah, and so that was the concern that we had. I mean, we really wanted to have this, the introductory training, the 40-hour training, be face-to-face, because we knew that it was really, there was a process that went on when you were with a group of people and went through that and really did the kind of sort of experiential learning too that goes on with that class. So we were concerned about, it really being virtual, but as it turned out, we were really thankful that we could do it virtually as well. And virtual is sort of the way that the world has been working for the last year. So it doesn't make it unusual, but I think when we're able to do it face to face, that'll be really good. But we know that we'll always be able to do it virtually, because one of the concerns that we had was that we wanted this to be accessible to people statewide. And we knew that there are some places where it was just too hard to get to Fairbanks, or it's too hard to get to Juneau or Anchorage. So it's good to have the virtual training as an alternative in our back pocket, but we really do want to have it face to face.
And of the people that have responded to my feedback questionnaires after class, that is literally the go-to. Like, I would have preferred it live, but we made do, and I still got the tools and skills I was hoping for, plus some. So we figured out the way to tweak it just right, so they still get that benefit of problem solving and role playing and all of that along the way. But yeah, I'm with them. The classroom's so much better.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I know you kind of did this at the last minute, and you actually probably want to get home, heaven forbid. Enjoy what's
I am home. I'm always home.
I know, right? We live there. We work, live, sleep, all of it.
Well, let me drop another little plug, though, is that we also have a thing called a Peer Support Echo series going on. And that is, it's really interesting. This Echo model has been used for a lot of different types of innovations in different fields. They have used it in medicine a lot. But the way it works is that usually there's a series of, whether it's 6 or 12 sessions. And part of it is like a little presentation on a topic. But the main part of it is really somebody, one of the participants, being willing to share a case scenario a scenario of working in the field and really having a dilemma of some sort about how to proceed in a certain situation. It can be in regards to boundaries. It can be in regards to working within your organization. And so we've started to have a few of those, and they've been great so far. And we have 4 more in the next few months.
Awesome.
One's, I think, May 14th. Yeah.
Okay.
And that one's going to be on navigating dual roles.
Oh,
And
that'll be
so that you can also Google that, Peer Support Echo Alaska, and the some links that come up for that if you're interested. It's through UAA, and it's free, and so check that out as well.
Peer Support Echo Alaska.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look that up and throw that link on here too.
Yeah. And anyway, just thanks for the work that you're doing, Jen. It's great, and I love the idea of sort of I don't know. Are you calling this a podcast?
Yeah, I guess that's what it is technically.
Right.
I have no
right.
idea what to call it.
And it's just there's so many different ways to really sort of get the word out. And yeah, there's a lot of people out there that can resonate with this stuff. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much for your time, Jim. I appreciate you. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Take care.
Bye.